I feel like when you're on the internet, it's really popular and fun to hate on certain things, Lena Dunham being one of those things. She's not really a thing though, she's a person, but I guess they're both kind of nouns, so whatever. I guess what I really want to say to you guys, and what I'm trying to say to you guys, and specifically to you, Lena Dunham, who is definitely not watching this, is don't worry. I don't hate you because it's popular. Hey guys, it's Shannon, and I couldn't think of a good video idea. I couldn't think of a fun story from my past dispute to you guys. Mark's State still hasn't uploaded, so I can't make fun of the love of my life. So I was kind of left in a content rut, and I had no idea what I was gonna upload. But then, out of nowhere, I was hit by a little bitch named Inspiration. Just kidding. What actually happened is I was talking to one of my close friends, and the topic of Lena Dunham's terrible behavior and just shitty way of being came up. And I willingly spent about 45 minutes of my own life just for no other reason talking to my friend about every single thing Lena Dunham has done that is terrible, that has ruined her career, that has ruined her credibility. And I thought, wow, I need to have a better use of my time than this. But then after, I thought, oh shit, that is content. I can make content out of this, and I will make content out of this. So that is what I am doing here today with you, with everyone who decides to click on this video. All my sweet ass delicious tasting plates of smoked salmon. We are going to be breaking down everything that Lena Dunham has done that falls under the umbrella term of terrible, including her racist ass comments, her straight up saying she molested her sister and treated her sister the way a sexual predator would, her very weird treatment of her ex-boyfriend, and everything in between. Now, as we go over this, I truly don't know how long this is going to take. You all know because you are watching the video and it's finished and done. There's a little status bar with a timer on it. Right now, I'm just winging it. I don't know how long this is going to be, so maybe we're just going to be here for a while. And if that's the case, welcome to your personal hell. My name is Shannon, and I will be your tour guide. Let's get started. Let's start off with something pretty lighthearted and normal. Something that isn't shrouded in racism and fucked up ideas. So it's not a secret that we live in a day and age where every little thing we see in a magazine, ever, is probably guaranteed to be photoshopped. Mainly because everything we see, both on social media and in magazine, is photoshopped fairly poorly. When I look at a magazine or at this photo of Courtney Cox that she posted to her own private Instagram, I am well aware that people don't actually look like that. When I see a makeup artist who has achieved perfect, bright, highly saturated pigmentation, I know that they are most likely lying to me and enhancing their looks, and I'm okay with that. Photoshop and Facetune are, in a sense, an artistic tool that is supposed to be used to get me to want to buy a product or get me to feel a certain way, and while the morality of it can be debated, I understand the tools and why they are used the way they are used. So it's not completely unheard of when celebrities, especially celebrities who don't fit the mold of being a size 2 with huge breasts, a fat ass, and perfectly symmetrical figures, get photoshopped to hell and back in magazines. In fact, most magazines that Lena Dunham has been featured in, like this photo from Vogue, it's pretty apparent that she's been photoshopped. There are plenty of instances where big magazines and photo shoots have photoshopped Lena, including this photo again from the issue in Vogue. However, there was one that Lena chose to take issue with, and it's this photo that was used in a Spanish magazine. Lena apparently saw this photo, which the magazine was going to use on the cover, and was filled with righteous fury. Despite the fact that she allowed her body to be altered many a time before, apparently there was something about this time that had struck a nerve, which is shocking to me personally because I don't understand why this one is worse than any of the other times. It's not like they gave her a phony hourglass figure or even photoshopped a cut out in her dress and put huge fake boobs there. I mean, if they had done something obvious and silly like that, I would get the righteous anger. But no, she saw this, got angry, and then posted this to Instagram. Oh, hello, Spanish magazine, Tentaciones. I am genuinely honored to be on your cover and so happy you used a pic by, nope, he will always make me feel gorgeous. But this is not what my body has ever looked like or ever will look like. Mad Photoshop has been done to this iteration. So if you're into what I do, why not be honest with your readers? Much love, Lena. Also credit to this other person for this, and then there's supposed to be emojis, but they're blocks. So who knows what was said there. Now, you're you're probably at home thinking, wow, Shannon, she's actually in the right on this issue. It's fucked up that they photoshopped her body like that without her consent. And it's even more fucked up that you're over here shitting on it. Well, guess what, you absolute idiot sandwich. I'm about to blow your puny little mind. Because not only did the company not Photoshop that photo at all, but Lena herself had sent that photo to use on the cover. She approved of this photo with the Photoshop already on it and sent it to this Spanish magazine to use for the explicit purpose of being on the cover, then complained like a jackass because they used the Photoshop photo that she had already supplied them with. Worse still is the fact that she never apologized for this, despite the magazine showing proof that this was all fabricated and false. She straight up got away with shitting on a company for essentially doing exactly what she wanted them to do and faced no consequences because she's Lena motherfucking Dunham and she will always find a way to make things terrible. Now, we're about to talk about something terrible, and that terrible thing is dog abuse. Now, if you know me even a little bit, you know that I do not like talking about this subject because I love dogs. Dogs, in my opinion, are better than people. They are amazing and kind and deserve the world. I love dogs so much that as a child, as a literal child, I used to break into my neighbors' houses and play with their dogs. And yes, I am admitting to a crime on my YouTube channel, and if there's any cops watching, please do not arrest me. I'm a really nice person and I just thought those dogs were probably lonely because their owners weren't in the house and I didn't steal anything and all the dogs were cool with it, so like, please. Anyway, back to terrible person Lena Dunham. For 4 long years, Lena had a dog named Lambie. Lambie was bought from a no-kill shelter and according to Dunham, came from a terrible home that left the little cutie with some pretty aggressive tendencies. She claimed that the dog had been abused, hence why the dog would lash out at her. Because of these tendencies, after 4 years, and the dog literally biting her ass, she sent the dog away to live on a farm. And despite the wording, which is vague and uncomfortable, no, she didn't kill the dog. She literally sent it to live on a farm, which weirds me out. But it might have actually been a good thing, seeing as the dog was never abused by its previous owners. And Lena's claims were debunked by the same shelter that she got the dog from. The shelter released a statement saying that the dog had never been abused and never showed aggressive tendencies while it was there. When Lambie was given to Dunham, the dog again showed no tendencies or hatred or malice or aggression towards people and was not abused and was described as having a great temperament. But because of the aggression that Lena claims the dog had, plus the image of her ass her dog bit into, a lot of people took that as proof that she might have hurt the dog and been abusive to Lambie herself and gave him up after it started to respond to the abuse in the way that dogs respond to abuse. Either way, Lambie is better off without her, and so is every other animal that she's ever owned. Now this is a story all about how Amy Schumer and Lena Dunham have no idea how to talk about anything ever, and are both genuinely terrible people. I might eventually make a video like this about Amy Schumer because, like Lena, she's just generally and genuinely terrible. I mean, we can sum up most of both of the jokes that they make as smelly vagina humor and leave it at that. But there is so much nuance and weirdness about how terrible these two individuals are, and it might take a second video to talk about Amy. But this is about Lena. In an issue of the Lenny Letter, which is a newsletter that Lena Dunham runs herself, she published a conversation with Amy Schumer, where she talks about going to the Met Gala, which is something that I have always personally dreamed of attending, along with many a girl and boy who loves fashion. Lucky for me though, both of these motherfuckers hate it and talk about it like it's a middle school dance that their parents made them go to. The whole conversation is pretty terrible, but the part that stuck out to most people was about how Lena Dunham felt like she was snubbed romantically by Odell Beckham Jr., a handsome sports guy who does sports and is handsome. I know very little about him other than he's handsome, his parents nailed that, good job, his parents, and he does a sport. Is it basketball? Is it football? It's something. Anyway, she was at the event and was seated next to him, and apparently because he didn't look at her like a sex object or make a move on her, and I don't know, declare his undying erection for her, Lena took that to mean that he was flat out rejecting her and thought she was a disgusting marshmallow-shaped person that he would never place his penis in. Literally, she describes this interaction as if he recoiled in disgust at her appearance, laughed at her, pissed on her face, puked at the thought of sleeping with her, and how greatly this impacted her, when in reality, all that happened was he just didn't talk to her. He just didn't interact with her. She took him exercising his right to not give a fuck about her to mean that this beautiful, handsome man was in no way ever attracted to her, would never be attracted to her, is sexist, and hates women of a certain size. Therefore, something is wrong with him, and that he is a jerk. Now, let me be honest. Let me give Lena a break right here. I get the thought. I get the idea. I get thinking this way and being over dramatic and reading too much into the interactions of someone who's incredibly attractive and thinking that they're thinking terrible thoughts of you when they're really just not caring about you at all. We have all done this. I mean, in middle school, I did this all the time. If someone who I thought was the most handsome person in the world didn't acknowledge me in the same way, I would assume it's because they probably hated me for some unknown reason, and I would write about them in my diary, and I would summarize all the reasons why they could hate me. However, when you grow up and get out of middle school, you kind of learn that sometimes people don't acknowledge you because they don't want to acknowledge you. People have larger things to worry about than looking at you in a dress. That doesn't mean they hate you. It just means that they didn't acknowledge you that one time and you should maybe calm down. Not everything is about you. We all have learned that. However, Lena Dunham, dipshit Dunham, did not. And instead of keeping those stupid thoughts in her diary or just not sharing them with the public, who at this point already doesn't like her, she decided to release this in a newsletter, publish this for the world to see. Shortly after it was released, Lena edited the newsletter and released an apology to Odell Beckham Jr., letting him know she realized now that his lack of reaction to her and him having other priorities than stroking her fragile feminine ego, that had nothing to do with her and she was actually in the wrong. Which, just for a second, I want us to just do a little exercise. Imagine being a person who's at the biggest fashion event of the year. You are there, having a great time, and then someone you hardly noticed the entire evening, someone that had dinner adjacent to you, that you didn't talk to because you don't know them and you don't owe them anything, they write a whole fucking paper about how you didn't want to fuck them and you're a big meanie for doing that. That is wild. That is bonkers. Also involving this situation, and this is something that people tend to ignore because the Odell Beckham Jr. thing got so big, but Amy Schumer also said about the victims of the shooting of her movie, like, the people who died were like sweet angels, and it's never a toothless crackhead who gets killed. Like, the loss of life of someone involved in a shooting, it sucks because they were like a certain caliber of person, and had it just been some toothless crackheads, that would be fine. That's fucking terrible. Why has no one else talked about that? She's friends with Terry Richardson. That man is disgusting and has been accused of several sexual assaults numerous times by numerous people, but gets away with it because he has famous friends like Dunham. In response to being called out for working with him after she called out people for working with other sexual predators, she said working with him should not affect people's perception of her feminist ideals and doesn't change anything she said about other men accused of assault and the people who work with them. Which translates, at least for me, as long as the man who is assaulting women is assaulting other women and can benefit me in some way, it is fine. But if that man cannot benefit me and tries to assault me, then it's not okay. She also compared everything that was happening at the time with Bill Cosby to the Holocaust, and then, in an apology for that, signed off with maybe the best closing ever, "With love, your special rape-hating Jew friend Lena," which, I don't know, doesn't sound great. Oh, and then there was also the fact that her friend was accused of sexual assault. Then she immediately spoke up and said that the victim was lying and had misreported it, despite saying previously that every woman should be believed regardless. So it was she's very flip-floppy. If you can't benefit her, then you are evil, and if you can do no wrong. As I have already established through the past 4 points, Lena loves putting her foot in her mouth. She loves the taste of her feet after a long hard day of stepping in her own shit. She also loves shitting on the ground apparently and stepping in it, which none of that I understand, and I'm sorry I made the metaphor. In 2016, she made a comment during a podcast about how she had been at a women's clinic and another woman had asked her if she would share her story about abortion. Lena explains that at the time she was defensive and made it clear to the girl that she had never had an abortion and didn't like the idea of someone thinking she had. But as she has since removed the stigma from herself about abortion and has a whole different thought process about abortion, now she says, I haven't had an abortion, but I wish I have. Now, if you are a normal human person, you realize that abortion isn't like a trendy thing. People don't want to have abortions because people don't want to be put in a situation where they need to have an abortion. For most people, having an abortion is something that they have to do for one reason or another, and it's a difficult decision to make. But no, not to Lena. All fun and games. It's a fun in the sun party for her baby, but not for her baby because she, don't even worry about complications or pain that you might be in later as a side effect. It is all good because Lena wants to do it. It's fucked up. It's completely and utterly fucked up how little she cares when she opens her face hole and spews her thoughts to the world. After she said this, she turned around and apologized to everyone for her arrogance and ignorance and her complete lack of thought when speaking. But for me, a huge part of an apology is being able to commit to changing your ways, to commit to learning something from it. And as we can see through however many points I've done already, she has not done that, not even a little bit. So, Lena Dunham has a book, and there's a lot of controversies revolving this book, but we are going to talk about the first one. In the book, Lena talks about a sexual assault she experienced in college. She describes the man as being a Republican with a mustache who worked at the campus library and on campus radio, whose name was Barry. Now, as someone who makes YouTube story times and story times in general, featuring real-life human people who are in fact real, I know that the first rule of doing that is that you never use someone's real name, and that you make it very clear that you are not using their real name in the story you are telling, therefore no one goes to try and find them. In order to show this, most people choose to call the people featured in their story fantastical things like nail polish remover or nail polish or Vaseline intensive care, and I'm just naming things on my desk and I'm sorry. However, Lena chose the name Barry, which is actually the name of someone who went to school with her, had a mustache, was a Republican at the time, and could be looked up on her college records. She chose to name this person after another person who fit the description of the person she was talking about. So when people read about the assault and wanted to take action, as most people who hear about assault would, they were able to look up this completely innocent person who was not involved in this and send him vicious attacks, vicious hate mail, and accuse him of being a person who harmed Lena, which he wasn't. So the Barry that was being attacked and got the brunt of the hate threatened to sue Dunham and her book company, and for 9 long weeks, her camp and her remained quiet on the situation until her publishing company finally released a statement that in all future printing, they would make it clear that Barry wasn't really the guy's name, which to me sounds like a little too late. Dunham later played the victim over the situation, citing that what she did, which is send targeted harassment towards an innocent person who was in no way involved with her sexual assault, shouldn't overshadow what happened to her, which I agree. What happened to her is terrible, and what she did is also terrible, and she should be held accountable for the terrible things she does. I mean, why would you purposely send hate to someone, purposely destroy their reputation and ruin parts of their lives, and have this accusation follow them forever, and not realize that that's maybe not a good thing to play victim over? Now, this is another scandal that came out of the book, and I've seen a lot of people say that this wasn't actually sexual assault because they were children and it's not a big deal, but I urge you to read what she wrote. And she wrote this as an adult because I read it and it's gross, and I don't want to talk about it because it's fucking gross. Basically, in her book, the same book as before that she wrote as an adult, not as a child with a childlike sense of humor, as an adult who knows how the world works, who has a TV show, who's widely widely successful, in her book, she talks about how she groomed her sister the same way a sexual predator would. You can read about this yourself. It's really gross. Read the book yourself. I don't have the stomach for it. However, when a blog talked about the situation and called her out for comparing herself to a sexual predator and talking about touching her sister inappropriately, she did threaten to sue them. She threatened to sue a blog for using the words she wrote and taking them at face value because she's that stupid. She added her sister. That's it. She added her sister's sexuality, which is an incredibly shitty thing to do. Big no-no. I kept my sister's sexuality private for as long as she wanted me to. And if she never came out to anyone else but me, that was absolutely not my place to push her out of the closet. But according to Dunham's sister, Lena told her parents as soon as possible. Now, I think we're hitting the final stretch here, at least I hope. Honestly, in terms of notes and bullet points that I've written down, we are at page 10. Which is a lot. I don't know how long this video is. I don't know how much I've cut out, but it's a lot. So maybe this video is a million hours. Maybe it's barely over 10 minutes. Who fucking knows? Whatever. Back to the disgusting world of Dunham. Instead of summarizing what she said, I am going to read you her words because it's crazy. So about visiting India, Dunham said this: I had this dumb Western idea, like I was going to go to India and I was going to be so transcendent that I'm going to not be afraid of death anymore, and I'm going to lay down so many of my Western anxieties and embrace a new kind of knowingness and bring it back to the US. We do a really good job in this country of basically sealing off sick people and sealing off toilets and sealing off everything that lets us know we're animals. And in India, not only do they not do that, there's no interest in doing that. Okay, so the first half of that statement from her Western idea that going to India was going to be so transcendental, was going to be so transcendent and beautiful, that she was going to get rid of all her Western anxieties, she displays a big eat, pray, love kind of complex. That beautiful, lavish fetishization of an entire ass culture and race, and the idea that when you go to another place, an exotic area that is so separate from Western ideals, that you will come back with this refined knowledge and be able to use what you took from another country and just be so much better than everyone for it. Again, it's a very eat, pray, love, Julia Roberts, middle-aged suburban housewife mentality that she displays. But then she goes and not only takes a shit on India, but talks about how Indians are like animals, I guess? How that because they don't do things the same way that we here in America do, that they are more animalistic, which is all kinds of terrible. It's not even a hot take, it's a bad take. Bad job, Dunham. Don't worry though, Asian people, if you felt left out from the racism train. I mean, let's be real, Dunham shows that she views black men as sex objects through Odell Beckham. She left out 3 black women who won Emmys in a list of women she admired who won Emmys, which featured everyone except them, then went back and put the women in the middle of her post to try to convince people they had been there the entire time, and she only appreciates Indian culture as it's depicted in sitcoms and movies like Eat, Pray, Love. So I feel like it's pretty much a given that Lena has some more than slight racist tendencies. But nothing shows this more than a blog she wrote when she visited Japan in 2011, where she literally says she has yellowish fever for a man named Kazu, who, despite her saying that she would never want to hook up with a Japanese person, she describes Kazu as being a strong, sexy, dreadlocked Mongol from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. She also says shit like no one there can take a joke, it's all filled with porn, and all comments below the blog post talk about how racist Lena Dunham can be. But I feel like it's the end of Mean Girls here, because there's a limit, it does not exist. Not to mention the racist tweets from way back when, where she says things like, an uncool thought to have. Is that guy walking in the dark behind me a rapist? Never mind, he's Asian. And just found my creativity journal from 2005. It begins, I dreamed I was a prostitute and that I was molested by a little African rodent. Again, pretty racist of Lena Dunham. Now, this one I don't have the stomach to talk to you guys about, but just Google Sexy Pantsuit Anthem. It is by far the worst thing I've ever seen, and I think everyone involved, anyone who had a part in this should be tried for hate crimes against my eyes, because it's not okay. None of it's okay. But I do appreciate her asking the camera if she's actually hurting the election, because, yeah, Dunham, you are. Okay, so those were all the reasons I currently have as to why people hate Lena Dunham. I have cited all my sources down below. I used 3 different articles, but basically what we can surmise from this is that she's a weird adult baby who cannot stand when things are not about her. She has 0 class, 0 likability, and essentially the worst version of a real-life Michael Scott. But Michael Scott has genuine things that make him likable. If you are watching and you genuinely like her, let me know why and also what is wrong with you. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!